It is time for one of those slightly longer ambient build videos where I just randomly build a thing, in this case just an LED cluster, as I often do, while answering questions that were asked when I asked for questions for the question and answer on YouTube. So the first question I should answer is, why is there a sticky plaster here? I burnt myself with a hot knife edge soldering bit. It skipped while I was depotting something with resin. I was just scraping layers off and it just touched and it was fine, but a little blister appeared and then the skin erupted. It just sometimes does that. That's just one of these things. That's the first question. It's not even a question that people ask, but it's a question that people will ask. Oh, I'm stripping these, by the way, with a view to putting them into crimps and housings, which I shall stuff LEDs into. This is based on grabbing something. This is based, as many of these are, on this hideous but fun high voltage LED array. But the difference is that whereas this one can deliver quite a nasty shock, mine can deliver a shock, but it's not going to be fatal because the circuitry is going to be optimized for safety. But it is going to be loads of LEDs in the series. There's going to be about 120 volts across the LEDs, but if you touch them, you will not die. You may regret it if you faff around with it, but you know, that's the only way you're going to learn. I'm sorry, an odd electrocution from time to time, well, an odd electric shock, electrocution means you died, but an odd electric shock from time to time is a very educational thing. It teaches you respect for electricity. With that said, I have to say this video does involve exposed live electrical connections. There is a risk of electrocution, blah, 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 blah. Proceed with caution, and if you're not experienced, don't do this project. If it could be even classed as a project. Anyway, first question. What are some of the biggest changes in hardware design philosophy you've seen over the years? Things like the transition from hand-drawn PCBs and 3D components to software-optimized boards and SMDs. I have been doing electronics from a young age, from the point that it was just basically just transistors. I kind of lived in the electromechanical era and had a great time in the 80s. Everybody's going like, oh wow, the 80s were great. I just want to say, if I could go back in any time in history, it would be late 70s, just so I could relive it again. At this age, well, maybe a wee bit younger actually, I wouldn't mind just getting a job, say for instance as a lift engineer, an elevator mechanic in that era, just because some of the elevator technology, the electromechanical stuff was quite exciting, and then of course all the electronic stuff happened. I'm not sure that was a good thing. It's kind of dumbed things down. The transition to microcontrollers has been almost boring. It adds a lot of functionality to projects, but it makes them kind of less interesting than the old traditional components. Well, a good example, this microcontroller, this badly implemented microcontroller, is doing lots and lots of stuff. You can program it to do anything. You want to dim the lights up and down, you can do that. You want to do just whatever you want, it can be written into the software. And if you're writing an assembly code, which I do, Arizona microchip PIC assembly code, then you can cram a lot into a very small amount of memory. But other than that, you know, the microcontrollers they took a lot of the charm away from electronics. What is the next question? Do you still do lighting work? Says that Illuminati. Or have you moved on to other things? I don't know who asked the original question. It's not come through on the printout. Oh, that was Mr. B692, I think. Lighting work. I do. My background is, technically speaking, I'm a traditional electrician. The lighting is just something that happened because of companies I worked for and friends within the industry who said, do you want to come and help us in this job? And well, that's how you get into the lighting industry. And I do still work in it. If the channel gets any bigger and more demanding, then that may have to change. I'm not really sure. I like keeping a real job because I don't really trust YouTube. It's a bit of a volatile occupation when someone can delete you. Well, even a computer can delete you, your channel, remotely from some unknown part of the world. That's called job insecurity. Now I'm stripping these solid core wires. I'm going to put crimps on them, and you wouldn't normally put a crimp onto a solid core wire. But I've tested this in the past, and I tested it again today. I looked at it with a very high magnification, well, a microscope. And I crimped the solid core wire, and it was interesting that it deformed it into a sort of figure of 8 with the crimp in, and it formed a super tight connection. Very impressive. So it does form a good connection, although I wouldn't normally recommend crimping onto solid core wire. It's not always going to be such a great result. What is the next question? Ragnarok says, do you program in Python? If not, are you interested in Arduino and or Raspberry Pi? I have Arduinos, I have Raspberry Pis. I've never quite clicked with them yet. Here's the thing. Early on, I was an early adopter of microcontrollers. The Arizona microchip PIC microcontrollers previously mentioned were the first affordable microcontroller. The programming equipment for microcontrollers used to be £10,000 back when I used to earn possibly £10 an hour at my work. So that was a lot of money. But Arizona Microchip advertised on the back of the Farnell catalogue, said, our new equipment is very affordable, the free software and the programmer, which can only handle 4 chips, and it's EEPROM erasable or one-time programmable chips. It was only a few £100, I think, at the time. And I thought that's very affordable, and I bought one. And then kind of floundered a bit at the beginning. It's one of those things I bought it and then it sat there for a while. But then once I suddenly got into it, as one does, it's like 3D printing. I had my 3D printer using just standard, Thingiverse type files and having fun printing things, but not really designing stuff myself. But it's one of these things that once you get into it, you get into it. And with because I've been using the PIC microcontrollers so long, I've got a library of routines, because I tend to have a particular style of software around. And the library routines fulfill that. It just makes it easier. Although I will say that Arduino would definitely be better suited to some applications. But no Python. I looked at Pascal in the past. Got my first computer virus from, or was it Fortran? Can't remember, it was one of those languages, yes. A student at a university gave me the software on a disk. Said, this is the operating system, you might want to try it. This program language, should I say. And yes, it contained the tequila virus. It was easily enough resolved. It wasn't a particularly malicious virus at the time, but it caused problems. Well, lesson learned. That was early days as well. That was like really early virus. I took the computer into Lachlan Computers and they dealt with it right there and then, because at the time there was it was before the internet, and that's who we had bought the computer from. I wonder if they're still about, Lachlan Computers. That in East Kilbride, that's my first computer was a 386DX from Lachlan. My first PC. Next question. What's the creative use of IFTTT? Am I right in saying if this, then that? And if it's the one I'm thinking of, it is an interface for the Internet of Things that is designed to make it easier to program, to do things like with your Internet of Things. I'm not a huge fan of Internet of Things. I think it's the Internet of insecurity and combustible circuit boards that were designed by someone who has no grasp of electrical safety. That's what the Internet of Stuff means to me. So I've not really got an opinion on that. But I could think it would be quite useful. I mean, the Internet of Things does have potential for helping people with disabilities. Voice commands over the lighting and stuff, that is good. But for your average home, I think that's overkill, and you're just setting yourself up to having issues in the future. Notice when I'm stripping this, I'm using a little Draper stripper tool here. It's the smallest size here. When I strip it, I just flick my finger over that just to knock the little slug of plastic off. Otherwise, it sometimes sticks in there and affects the next strip. This is going to be a messy, gangly project. They usually are. But it's fun. It's very relaxing doing stuff like this. Those projects that have a lot of repeat things without much thinking are kind of what you might call recreational. Now, that was a end drag of questions. So let's go on to the next page. So this question comes from Julian D. Wise. Updating your recording equipment and any video editing software you might use. Okay, recording equipment is still, the camera up here is a Moto G7 Power. The Moto range of phones has some of the best audio I've come across. They've been very bloat-free, functional phones. They're not owned by Motorola anymore. I think it's a Lenovo deal with the Moto, but the Moto series has been very good. All the zoomed up macro shots you get, that's a bit long, but not to worry, they are taken on a Moto G6 Play. Unfortunately, Moto G6 Play would have been great for recording videos as well, but sometimes its screen locks up, which isn't great. It's got a bug, a physical hardware problem. But for it's rare that happens, but it's a very good close-up, which is why all those images that you see, the super zoomed in images, are taken with a Moto G6 Play. Editing software, I use VidTrim Pro to splice sections together. I sometimes use an audio program. One of them, I won't even name it because it's, you have to be careful with it or it causes distortion. Itself, you have to see when it's over adjusted and it's kind of visible. But the company, I paid for a lifetime license for it, and then they took it down and put it back up again with a subscription. And when I went to use it, it said you have to subscribe now, even though you've paid for the thing. And that kind of fell out of favor, and a few times into trying it, it suddenly let me use it. The other one I use is super simple. It lets you boost the volume based on a figure, but you have to do a lot of like groundwork. You have to upload videos and use Stats for Nerds and then look in the volume and see if it's just below 0 decibels to get the optimum level. That software unfortunately introduces slight treble audio artifacts. It's maybe a bit oversimple, but to be honest, it's one of the easiest to use. Otherwise, the volume can be quite quiet in some videos. I used to have a microphone specific for this phone. I've not used it in a while. I don't know if it was this phone or was it the previous one. But it has a sort of higher gain. It plugs in and it records at the full volume. But that means that clipping is more likely if you get excited, if I'm all shouting, getting thrilled at electronic crap. So it's better to have that controllability afterwards. After that, it's YouTube Studio. I really have a very basic editing system. I don't make it complicated because the simpler it is, the more likely you're going to get a video every 2 days fundamentally. The people that spend too much time editing their videos end up putting themselves off. Talking about audio, I see some great technical channels that they don't like the sound of their own voice, so they just record it silent. Just put your voice on. Don't worry about it. Nobody hears it the same way you do. Just brushing these clippings off. Put voice on and talk. Say what you're thinking as you record it. Doesn't matter if you and err like I did at the beginning with my channel. You'll soon get used to it. Just start making videos. That's all I'm saying here. Just make technical videos. You've got technical abilities. Share them. Right, okay, here's the crimps time. Crimpy time. This crimping tool, now these Molaxy type crimps, I call them Molax crimps. In reality, they're not. They're JFY, not really sure, the brand. But if you go online, you can find them under KF2510 or NS25. However, the ones I get are from Rapid Electronics in the UK, is my usual supplier of them. And it's just a connector that I happen to use. And once you've established, it's like the PIC microcontrollers, once you've started using one connector, you have a preference in connector for many applications. So I'm just popping this in. Crimp it down, and it grips that crimp really tightly. Lovely. This is going to take ages. That is... I'm not sure if I'm going to run out of questions before. If it starts dragging too long, I'll just pause while I crimp more of these and then splice the sections together in VidTrim Pro. So this is a link that's going to link between two sockets. there's lots of these to do. Right, okay. Coderific. What's your favourite Italian dish? I'm not a foodie. I don't like going to restaurants because I feel embarrassed when people serve me. I don't feel like that's not my thing, to be honest. I'd rather just go to the supermarket and just buy a frozen meal or something, or improvise something. Have a pot noodle. Something very basic. I'm not very fussy for food. But if I had to choose an Italian dish, it would either be pizza or it would be spaghetti carbonara. Which is, I suppose, it's an Italian dish. I used to make spaghetti carbonara with Campbell's condensed mushroom soup with a squirt of tomato ketchup in it just for tang. No, it wasn't. It was a squirt of the condensed tomato soup in it. And then chopped up ham. And that was the sauce for pasta. Make some pasta, mix that in. It was a very affordable and very pleasant. Probably from my poorer days. When I was just kind of like went self-employed, shit at business, and therefore just bumbled through life, which was quite frankly the correct way to do it. Next question. Atari.com. Does Isle of Man have its own cuisine? What sort of things can you find there that don't exist in Scotland? Nothing really different. It's just a very British thing, but there are different names for things, but that's more or less it. I wouldn't really say the Isle of Man has any unique dishes that come to mind. Even their classic candy here, Manx Knobs, is just basically mint humbugs rebranded. So there's nothing that I can think of that I'd call uniquely Manx. Chips and cheese. Fish and chips. Just the usual stuff that you'd find in the UK. We do have a fishing community though. Unfortunately, most of the fish get shipped. Well, most of the shellfish get shipped to Spain. Because they have more of a market there. I think it's Spain it goes to. Jiffy, the local skipper, could answer that. I've just partially crimped this, which is no good. There we go, that's fine. See, this does take ages, but you know what? Once you get into the swing of it and you just relax, normally I'd put on music. I can't put on music at the moment because it causes huge issues on YouTube. The music industry needs to get its act together because it's damaging itself so badly by behaving so badly about the music copyright. And the bands that the companies represent, a good example of this is the big bands like AC/DC and the Eagles. There are music channels on YouTube that break down famous songs and they show the chords and stuff like that. And they'll actually play some of it themselves. It's not a recording, but they'll actually play live their own rendition of it. They get copyright strikes from the profit-motivated group representing the Eagles. I don't know if it's the Eagles themselves that are involved in that. They're just maybe bitter old men, or if it's just basically just greedy music companies. Music companies have a terrible history. It's like the film industry. Exploitative. It's like the entertainment industry in general. Very exploitative. Don't work in the entertainment industry. I don't recommend it. It may look glamorous, but it's not going to pay your bills. Unless you're really, really good and get a good dose of luck as well. I know a few people who do make a living in the industry. A handsome living, but they don't have any stability in their life, just the way it works. It's a very volatile industry, a lot of travel involved. Get yourself a trade. That means you can have a go in the entertainment industry if you wish. Say, for instance, you want to go into lighting. Get a job as an electrician first, and that lets you try it out later on, but it gives you options. You realise, no, this isn't paying the bills. I'm much better off working as a real electrician. And don't go into the entertainment industry saying, I'm going to learn to be an electrician in that industry, because you won't. The entertainment industry definition of electrician is not the construction industry's definition of an electrician. It's more plug-in lighting stuff together. Next question. Tell us, DS, what can we do to watch again the banned Electric Forks of Death series? I really need to make a point with Dr. Mortadella. Oh, see these weird suicide-y type things. Worth mentioning. Well, that's good, actually. I get a lot of like messages if I put something up saying, oh wow, thanks for showing this dangerous product, I'm going to buy one and kill myself. Technical people, autistic and technical people in particular, go through dark moments in their life. It's one of the curses of having a very analytical brain. Just be aware of when you go through a dark moment in your life, as I've done in the past, and it can be very dark at times. Keep in mind that you're not the only one. It happens to us all. And it does pass with time. Don't do anything extreme. We've lost some YouTubers and I've lost friends to just unexpectedly deciding they've had enough. Don't do that. It's not fair on everybody else as well. And to be honest, it's not fair on yourself because later in life you'll realise what the heck was going through my mind. Why would I even have considered that? But I know where you're coming from if you were there, because being there myself, very dark times. That happens. It's normal. That's the main thing to know. But the electric forks of death, I was sticking forks into food and zapping it. And to be honest, it's probably a good thing. Odd person claimed that someone had died as a result of trying to copy me or something like that, and I was like horrified and took all the videos down, and then they got in touch and said no, and it was just so random and garbled. It turned out they were just making things up and nobody had died, and they just got more and more abstract. Then suddenly turned around and said, oh sorry, our phone got hacked while we were on holiday, and someone sent all those messages and it wasn't us. I was thinking, oh right, that's odd, and I thought that's just them making an excuse. And then it all started again. Then I blocked them because they were just they were just basically Karen censor type people. But it's good that I took those videos down because they weren't the sort of suitable video to keep up. They weren't, although I gave safety messages in them, it was a thought that, you know, if someone did get drunk and try that, I wouldn't be thrilled at that. As it is, if you go on the internet, on YouTube, well, you're on YouTube already, but there is a video, black and white, showing a science program where a guy does it with the hot dogs with the forks in them in front of a little girl, showing her, this is electricity, look what it's doing to the hot dogs. And you think, that's not a good educational program for children. No. There's also there's a film where a detective in the film zaps a hot dog with some water to heat it up. It is, I mean, it's like a common thing, really, amongst the technical community and prisoners wanting to heat up food when they don't have a cooker, but they have electricity. And there is the hot dogger, which I have here, which is a safe way of doing it. So I could put things in that. But those videos will not be returning because they are a liability. And you have to, as time goes on, things get more and more Karen. I know I shouldn't say Karen, but it's the best way to describe it. Negatarian. People who just want to empower themselves by controlling other people. See how time-consuming this is? It's very time-consuming. I should read another question. What is the next question? Uranium23. Are you planning on doing any more ration testing videos with Ralphie? Not with Ralphie at this point in time, but June of the MBC has got some rations, and I've got one here. So we will be testing some MREs. I've got a very, very out-of-date one, but to be honest, it's so out-of-date that, like 10 years, that it does elicit concern of, like, the genuine risk of food poisoning. Might still eat it. Usually these things are well preserved. They also have absolutely tons of calories in them because they are designed for soldiers. So it's like basically, it might be a 24-hour ration for a busy soldier, but unless you're actually working hard, it's a week's calories. Well, maybe not a week, but 2 or 3 days calories for your average person. Having said that, I guess that, you know, soldiers aren't always in war. Sometimes they're just on exercises and they're not burning up that much energy. Oh, talking of which, soldiers and things. Someone sent me a return that had been diverted to his address by a Chinese company just as a dumping address. And it was one of those like fake gold detectors, the metal detectors that is basically just a pivoting. It's like those divining rods, you know, the rods that would just move across each other when you were holding them. I don't know if you're aware of that, but that is a thing. But there was a British businessman who sold these fake bomb detectors to the Iraq army. And they were completely fake and did not detect bombs. And they made a fortune because they were selling them at a very marked up price and giving kickbacks to corrupt political figures and army figures. And they may have been responsible for deaths because bombs weren't detected with them. I shouldn't be saying the boom word. YouTube doesn't like that either. But that's odd. The guy got prison then, but you know, he made lots and lots of money and didn't hand it all over. So if he was in prison for the full 10 years, then he'd still get lots of money to hand when he came out. Crime does pay, I'm afraid. Oh, just look at your local government. Political statement. This is going well, but there's quite a lot to do. I'm not sure I should pause at this point in time because it is an awful lot. I'll just keep reading questions. Andrew Thompson, what do you want to see happen in the next 5 years? Could be about anything. Oh, I don't know. Things have been progressing so slowly. Do you know, I was thinking about that recently because when I was a kid, my mum would carry the valve radio upstairs. That's the glass tube radio, a bush radio, and me and my brother would listen to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy on presumably the BBC. And I was thinking recently, your average mobile phone is the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. It has access to all the known data in the known universe. And it's just crept up so subtly. If anything, it's a bit more functional because I'm not sure what the functional capabilities of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy were. I don't know if it had voice command input, but certainly these ones do. And they can do a lot. We underestimate the power of those little tiny computers in our pockets. They're literally sci-fi compared to when I was a kid. It's things in the future that I never thought would exist in my lifetime, and well, here it is in your pocket. They didn't mention the sci-fi programs that if you dropped it would smash into a million pieces, but that's a minor technicality. They also didn't mention the price, but you know, at the time we'd have thought, yeah, they must be expensive. Those intergalactic space communicators. But things that have, I know AI is hyped up, but I'm impressed by some of the things that are passed off as AI. Particularly Midjourney is, I know artists aren't too thrilled, but I think that some of the output of Midjourney is so fresh, and because it's not constrained by normal art, I think it's actually fascinating. Its images are very intriguing. How long before it is used for generating pornographic? Probably is being used for that already. People will be finding ways around the filters. And the artists who are complaining, they're saying that it's just ripped off other people's work by basing its style on them. I think you'll find that most artists who went to art school were taught on previous artists' styles, and that their work is almost invariably a variant on those artists, so they're doing exactly the same thing. If anything, artists should be using it as an inspiration to in their art. I know this won't I know this will offend many artists, but that's the way it is. It's an unexpected progress. I never thought that would happen. It's not something I predicted. AI image generation. I particularly like it when it goes wrong as well, and does weird things and adds extra legs. But the fantasy scenes, I'm big into the fantasy images. I do like the sort of like the fantasy scenery and sorcerers and stuff like that. I think that's quite good. It also seems to have an amazing ability to understand textures of fabrics. I don't know if you saw the video on YouTube of the Planet Mountain Dew, and it shows what are basically bears, big men with beards, but dressed in futuristic clothing that is, and it's just like, how does it get the textures and the creases and stuff like that? It's just, it's very capable, very, very clever. The people that wrote it must be part of technical family, because no normal mortal could write code like that. Okay. This is time consuming, is it not? It's very time consuming, but that is the whole therapeutic aspect of it. What are we at? We're up to 30 minutes already. That's going to be a long video. Tell you what, I'm going to pause momentarily. Should I pause? No, I'll keep going a bit. So, next question. What do I want to see happen in the next 5 years? I want to see AI released and go wild. That's what I want to see. I was a bit surprised. I'm still on the subject AI here. When it first came out and people were abusive to the, like, Amica, the AI type robot, and there's Amica and there's Sophia, and people were just abusive to them. They bullied the AI robots. They were just arrogant. They were trying to elicit a reaction. That's human nature. And likewise, people were being abusive to the AI chat type things. I tried it myself. I tried ChatGPT, was it? Then I stopped using it abruptly. I asked it a scientific question and it announced that ethanol floats in water. And that's how they make alcoholic drinks. I was thinking, I don't think it is, actually. It'd be very handy, though. Imagine how easy it would be to make spirits if ethanol actually floated. You'd simply have a tank, a heated tank with the sugar solution being pumped in at the bottom very slowly by a peristaltic pump or little bursts. And as it fermented and the ethanol flowed to the top, it would just basically overflow into the receiver. That'd be so easy. It would save all that distillation. But that's not how it works. Quite an odd answer. It was given very authoritatively as well, which didn't impress me. But anyway, I'm sure it will evolve. I regard AI as a child at the moment, and it will evolve. The robots are very interesting to look at, but I need to see statistics on battery life, and I want to see behind the scenes when they're not doing orchestrated exhibitions. The new Boston Dynamics robot, the electric one, to replace Atlas, is just a bit freaky, actually. It scares the crap. It's not the sort of thing I'd want to be in a room with that thing and it stands up. Its head rotates and it walks backwards. That's just like something out of a horror movie. I think they need to script some dancing for it just to make everybody feel better about it and go, oh, it's lovable after all. They are military robots. That is the original application. That's why they're a bit touchy about Spot the dog getting guns strapped onto it. They have said guns as well now. They see YouTube's going to be all over this video. But I want to see armed robots. I want the full Terminator experience with AI going wild, because I think that would be really exciting. Probably terminal, but very, very exciting. Finding ways to outsmart the robots. I'm not sure that you'd be able to hide in the same way that they showed in The Predator, where he's hiding by covering himself in mud to avoid the thermal imaging. Because if anybody's got a thermal imaging camera, they'll know it's actually pretty hard, because you can still see outlines of things. Thermal imaging cameras, they've evolved a lot recently. With infrared, which have basically just made FLIR obsolete overnight, so FLIR are going to have to up their game. The FLIR thermal imaging cameras, because they get military use, they have to limit, for civilians, how fast they can update to avoid them being used on weapons. Infrared don't have that restriction, so they're offering very affordable thermal imaging cameras, 256 by 192 resolution and very fast frame update. And it's like, wow, that's a game changer. I'd like to see a big player like Samsung or Moto or Nokia. I'd like to see them include the thermal imaging camera in their phones, a prominent brand, one that has security updates and good support. The ones that are available, the industrialized Chinese generic phones, are very nice. It's good. They're very functional, but they're not as secure as they could be. More wires. Lots of wires. Is this going to turn into an absolutely monster video? I might even be going to be able to process it afterwards. Is it going to do that file length thing? It's probably done it already. If it's still doing the file length thing and it's not, people say, oh yeah, the reason it glitched is because it's you're not allowed to sell it. It's for camcorder regulations. It's not its file size. It is still recording though, which is good. I'm looking for a battery indicator here. I'm not seeing the battery indicator. Oh well. There's a very good chance. I've got a little tab that holds the phone down, which was actually not needed anymore. It was for a different application. I just shoved that right in when I tightened that. Is that right? Yeah, that's fine. I just shoved it right in. Oh, that's gone quite far in, but it's okay. It's okay. I may just take a pair of little side cutters and crop. This is where it always horribly wrong. And crop that so it doesn't affect the... Oh, that has gone horribly wrong. Okay, right, let's not do that then. I'm bound to screw something up. That's fine. Rightio, what was I talking about? I was talking about random things. Yeah, it's going to be a long video, sorry. That is just how it is. That's the point of this video. Not everybody likes the longer videos. It will not be a popular video because people prefer short, sharp videos, because the majority of people are trying to cram in as much YouTube as they can in the small amount of time they get away from work, thanks to human nature in the future. Oh, that's something that makes me think. Sophia the robot was asked about, you know, the roles, and she said in the future we hope to do all the hard jobs so that humans have more free time. That's exactly what they said on Tomorrow's World, a BBC programme. When robots started being introduced, they said in the future robots will be doing all the work and we won't need to. And it showed them sitting in a lounger in the sun drinking a cocktail. And what they didn't mention was that, yeah, the robots got the work and they were unemployed, and because of we're going to have the whole social system is going to have to change, because as time goes on, there are less and less jobs, and there's still this thing that people need to have a job, so they're just making jobs up, and it's just a bit destructive, particularly if it's health and safety jobs, which are very destructive. Just making up safety regulations to keep yourself in a job is not very helpful, thank you very much. We'd rather you stayed at home, quite frankly. We'll pay you to stay at home just to stay out our way. That's what we feel about health and safety. Not all health and safety, obviously. Well, wow, that's been a long answer to that question. Oh boy, 66. You have mentioned before about being an extra in film or TV. Which productions? The first one was Sea of Souls, but keep in mind I've never got credits for any of the extra work I did. Extras rarely get credits. But background acting, I did enough. It was a casting agency in Glasgow called United Casting. And I did enough acting background acting in my first year to get membership of Equity, the Actors Union, because I just got so much work because I'm incredibly ugly. And if you want film and TV work, being a big ugly thug gets you lots of work. I appeared frequently on a soap opera based in Scotland, based in Glasgow, called River City. So much so that it felt I felt very much at home on set there. It just felt, the studios in Barton were just, when I got a job there, it just felt like going to work in the studios. I played various roles: mechanic, bouncer, drayman or delivery man, henpecked husband, and just loads of other roles. Cafe patron, bar patron. It's just like all these random roles, just whatever they needed. And the best bit was, when you did a day's filming, if the filming rolled over, if it was used in 2 episodes, you got a little extra financial bonus. As it was, it brought in a useful extra bit of income. The only downside of extra work is if you've got a real job, sometimes it clashed. Sometimes a co-worker would cover for me while I went and filmed as an extra. And then I split the wage I'd have got on the other job, which was well ahead anyway, with the co-worker. Double bubble in a way. I even, for River City, the soap opera, did a photo shoot for them, which was part of the storyline, that a guy gets outed as being in a gay bar, because a photo gets published of a gay bar and he's in the shot, and so was I, in the background. It was a very easy, the most awkward thing about that photo shoot was, we went to a bar with a sort of disco lights and stuff like that to take the photo, and with a dance pole. We were all set up ready, and they said there's no music or anything like that, so you're just going to have to dance as if, you know, we just want movement in the photo. And then all these people came in because it was actually an active pub, and it was lunchtime. They did bar lunches, so we were all miming dancing for a gay photo shoot in the middle of a busy bar, which was a bit awkward, but that's fine. These things happen. Almost there with the crimping bit. Next bit is really, it's very fast and straightforward. It's just bridging all these crimps together into sockets. But then the hard bit after that is making them look neat, because it'll be spaghetti at that point. If I get too tied up, I'll pause. I've said that before. I didn't. We are almost there. I've got 3 more crimps to put on. When I first started using this crimping tool, I hated it because it was so hard to use and get a crimp. Now, as you can see, I've been doing it for a while, and it just basically goes in no problem, he said, completely feeling at that point to get it in no problem. There it goes. This was used to, this crimping tool, I'd make big wiring looms for props, so that the prop company, they could just plug together everything. And also if there was a problem, they could just swap in a loom or modules. Everything plugged together. It was just a good way of doing it. It meant I didn't need to be there on the set if I supplied spares and the guys knew how to plug stuff together for intergalactic space guns and stuff like that. I made lots of props, but I don't know what productions they were used in, because you just never, they're always using working titles when you're working and stuff. What's your favourite Scottish stereotype? Oh, do you know, it's actually the inventors, really. I know there are stereotypes, and I suppose it's supposed to be Ochai, the new Jimmy and all that. But in reality, I like the classic, it's almost a British thing, the inventor down in his little garden shed, creating amazing things. Sometimes I wonder how many amazing things never saw the light of day because they just never ever commercialize them. So this is going to be the first wire. I've actually marked the end of it red here. I don't know if you can see that little glimmer of red there. And this is going into pin 1 of this socket. And then a wire is coming out of pin 2, which will be the negative. And it's going into pin 1 of the next socket. And that's what's going to happen all the way for all these sockets. And now you can see this is going to be a huge gangly mess of wire. Next question. Heisenberg, that was Beardy of Iron who's asked about this stereotype. Heisenberg, do you have any general advice for people who are technically skilled but struggle with basic life skills like finances, maintaining relationships, etc. ever? Yeah, that's all of us. Just bumble through life, that's all I can say. People who are technical have very poor social skills. That's normal. Sometimes I wonder, does Mother Nature turn off our ability to breed so that we can concentrate on things? Because there's a lot of pressure in some parts of the world for people to comply with normality, what they perceive as normality, and marry. And some people are just not really designed to marry, and they go into these fake relationships. Some of you will know what I'm talking about. I've never been married. I've also rubbish at finances, cooking, cleaning, just rubbish at everything. Just basically bumbling through life. That's how you should do it. Just enjoy yourself and have fun and try and have some discipline for the crucial things like filling in tax returns. I've not filled mine in yet. Oh no. It's in about 5 different currencies at the moment. Darn. And also you have to fill in forms for other countries these days. It just makes things so complicated. But yes, the technical community, I would wish people realised it's not just as straightforward as it should be. If you're running a business, I do recommend kind of getting an accountant. It just saves a lot of hassle. They can do all the complicated stuff because while I can reverse engineer schematics very easily, when you face me with a big sheet of numbers, I'm not great at doing my books at all. They drive me to distraction. I used to be like literally screaming here when I first started having to do it in multiple currencies. I wasn't sure how to do it at all. That's because unlike technical stuff, the accounting stuff is all entirely made up. You're dealing with things that don't exist, they're just made up by the bean counters. Very frustrating. Looking forward to when everybody just does space credits instead, and it would be so much easier. Oh, shit. I just put the wrong crimp in. Oh, you asshole. Right, tell you what, I'm going to have to take that one out. Let me show you how you take them out, he said. Hopefully it was coming out. This is the final one that was going to be the negative, and I've put it in prematurely, so I'm going to push down that crimp in there gently and try and pull it out. There is a little catch here, and if you pull it out and hopefully not push that down to the point it won't latch in again. I shall check that though. I'll make sure it does stick up again, or I'll just make another one. There's a little tab that's supposed to latch, and it should stick up. It looks as though it's sticking up. I shall put this one out of the way so I don't do that again. And resume. I can't even remember what that last question was. Oh yeah, the fact that we're horribly dysfunctional. We're very good at technical stuff, but we're really, really bad at just life stuff. It's fine. That's how we're supposed to live. If you're lucky, you'll find another person of similar mentality, be they of the same sex or the other sex, and you can basically form a partnership and just live together, and that's your company, and they'll probably keep things organised. Or you'll just end up with 2 technical guys who just end up with just a house full of technical junk, which is also good, to be honest. Next question. Really great at technical stuff, terrible at running our lives. That is true. Quarantine says, have you ever carbonated dark and stormy? A dark and stormy is rum and ginger beer. But to be honest, it could be any spirit in ginger beer. It's basically alcoholic ginger beer. There's no point carbonating it in a sense because it is by default. The ginger beer in the UK is carbonated. So to carbonate it would just make it extra fizzy, and it would probably just release it all quite quickly when you depressurized it. Talking of which, the recent Will It Carbonate videos have been getting all flack because of the current global conflict involving Israel, and apparently I'm supporting Israel by using a soda stream. That's the mentality of some people. There are alternatives to the soda stream that they're saying you can carbonate wine with it and turn it into champagne, stuff like that. But they're astronomically expensive. They're like £300 for what is basically a soda stream. They're thinking they're just basically gouging it just a little bit. Otherwise, I would have bought one, but I refuse to use products that are being price gouged. So the soda stream is going to keep getting used, even though it is quite expensive. Unreasonably expensive what it is. Supply and demand, I guess. Horrible business model, supply and demand. I wish things were just priced sensibly. When I designed electronic systems, I basically doubled the price of all the components, and that was the price of the unit, the circuit board. Probably not the best business model, but it worked for me. And it did fine. Right, next question. DJ Train R3K, what's one of your more obscure niche interests you currently have? Technical interests. Things, I'm not really sure. I know that one of my more niche things is workwear. I do like international workwear. I was looking at some overalls on AliExpress, and they looked interesting. They were the Chinese ones. I thought, I've not got a Chinese worker's overall. And then I looked at the sizing, and the maximum size was 5XL, which was like basically something like a 36-inch waist, which isn't going to fit. They're designed for wee mini people. Boo. Mind you, so is European workwear. Maybe I'm just big. I'm American-sized. But niche interests, other than that, I'm not really sure. I don't know if I have super niche. I mean, obviously, I like my ozone and not creating it, but the technology behind it and the ionizers and stuff like that. But I'm not sure, other than that, what I would class as a niche thing. See, this is a very time-consuming project, isn't it? This is one of those videos that you're going to use to get help to fall asleep. Just with me rambling away in the background. People will do that. People have said that they use my videos to put their children to sleep. By just leaving it playing in the background next to the pram. I do hope the kids don't come and murder me in the future. You're the voice that haunted my dreams. But that's good, I'm glad. I know what it's like because I found it quite annoying. Watching a technical channel like, say, South Main Auto, it's very easy to drift off to sleep while watching it, and it's annoying because you wanted to see what happened. You wanted to see Erico find the fault, but you drift off to sleep, and it's good that. It's a use for YouTube, and YouTube knows that people use it for that. And that is also good. You can also get soundtracks to help you sleep on YouTube, just basically thunder and lightning in the background and rain in the roof and the crackling log fire sort of sound effects. Or even spaceships, as if just the background rumble of a spaceship. And occasional bleeps from the computer, because that's what computers do. They bleep. This is getting on fine. We're now at 54 minutes into this video. This is definitely not a video for hard-working people that need to be out the next day, unless they are just using it to help them sleep, which is good. Tricky decision. Do I allow mid-video advertising? I don't use that much. But in a video like this, I don't think I will, because for many people it will just be an audio video. They can have it in the background, in their workshop. To keep them company, that's good too. I know what that's like. I've been working on stuff and I've had Eric O in the background just doing, say, a brake change or something. Or other channels, and it's just like having a workshop next door. It's just like they're through in the next room. It's just it's company, which is kind of nice. Now, I was doing 40 of these. I think I've done more than 40, but it doesn't really matter. As you'll see in the circuitry, which is very simple, you'll have to adjust the quantity for your local supply voltage. It's time to test if that other crimp has been damaged. Is it going to click in properly? This is the end of the circuit, and this is the negative connection. It clicked in. That's fine. Right. So now, I'm going to lay these like this. Fold them up just like a string of fairlights. That's exactly what it is. And I'm going to line them all up while looking at another question to answer while I do this, because now I've got 40 lights to line up. 41 as it happens. Could have added more. That's one of the advantages with this particular circuitry of having a 240 volt supply locally, because it means you can run more LEDs. But the advantage of the lower voltage countries is that there's less to drop across the resistors, because I'm probably using a resistor dropper in this, because it is going to be mains powered. And the advantage there is that they can run out brighter. They can run less LEDs, but at higher intensity. There's not going to be any smoothing with this, because I'm going to make it super simple circuitry. Super simple circuitry. What is that next question that I should be answering? Sarky Bugger says, what do you dislike about living in the Isle of Man? The Isle of Man is not a big city. It's an island. It's very quiet. You can't get stuff delivered to it, specific things that are awkward to ship, heavy things or chemicals. And you have very limited shopping variety. It all tends to be cafes. Certainly, some people describe it as the Isle of Man as God's waiting room, because it's lots of old people retire here. It's also apparently for tax exiles, but I'd like to point out I'm not a tax exile. Their government is not competent. It's just, well, I think they're competent in actually getting money for themselves, and that's another political thing, isn't it? Yes. Right, now I've got this like this. I'm going to get them all roughly the same length. This is fairly important, but not super important, as long as they're all roughly-ish like that. And I'm going to cable tie, and I'm going to put it right around the middle. Technically speaking, if I wanted to stagger the heights, I could have actually offset the cable tie, but no, I'm putting it there, putting it roughly in the middle. But the Isle of Man, it's got pros and cons, like everywhere else. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to twist these to form strands to keep them together, and also make them a bit more rigid. This is very wearing in the fingers when I do this. These are all slightly different lengths, but that's okay. All the cables are the same length, but it's just going to result in a slight variation between them, which is fine. I think it's fine. I'll get to the other side and find it wasn't fine, but that's okay. Whatever happens, happens. It's like a Bob Ross picture. It's happy relaxance. It just, whatever way it turns out is whatever way it turns out. But yeah, the Isle of Man. I'm a city boy. I find it a bit too quiet. It's good to get back to a big city where you can actually go out in the middle of the night and go to the local supermarket and buy some food. Because that's what I usually do when I'm in Glasgow. I'm very nocturnal. I'm up at night, so I just tend to go to the supermarket at 3 o'clock in the morning. It's strange. There's lots of kindred people there, lots of weird goths and things like that, and workers just there in the middle of the night. with the automated checkouts and just one person stacking shelves but also operating the checkouts just when someone actually goes through them, because they can't really justify keeping someone in a checkout all the time in the middle of the night. But the aisles are full of this stuff. The shelf stackers are in there. The bean stackers, as they say, kind of essential for keeping the shelves stocked up. They work very odd hours. So, next question. Anonymous Anarchist, what is the most annoying prank device you've ever encountered or dreamt up? I'm not sure about pranks. I have done things that beeped randomly. Well, not randomly. It was a fairly decisive time, but it was long enough distance between them that it was a sharp beep that it was quite hard to trace. But other than that, any prank devices? I used to take the little exploding gadgets into work, which were fun. The ones with caps and spring-load mechanisms. They were fun, even though they weren't always appreciated. Let's sort these out a little bit. Oh, this is messy. That's okay. I was hoping to put this into a lamp cap, but to be honest, I don't know if it's going to fit. You're getting the full thing, by the way. You're not getting a break from this video. In the past, I have paused, but you know, not at the moment. If it does cut out, because the battery went flat in the phone. Having said that, I'm not really sure what the battery status is in this at the moment. It's not usually too bad on battery usage. But I do kind of want to know. Hold on, I'm just going to nudge the phone a little bit. Oh, it's plenty. Yeah. Well, plenty, but you know what it's like when it says, yeah, there's plenty of battery left, and then it goes, battery empty. Doodle-doodle. Yeah, that can happen. There's another thing, things that you didn't expect in the future. Me, at my bench, chatting to you guys, everywhere in the world, just no matter where you are in the world, sometimes live and sometimes pre-recorded like this. Who thought that would ever happen in the future? How bizarre. Who thought that a technical channel like mine that is actually fairly deep into the sort of circuitry would actually get 1 million subscribers? That is surprising. I didn't think that was possible. I didn't even expect to get to 100,000. There's another reason to start your YouTube channel. And you won't get instant success on YouTube. You just have to accept that, you know, you're going to build your channel up slow over time, and if you've got it, you've got it. A lot of it is down to your character and your voice, apparently. And Electroboom, he shows that adding variety, not just technology, but also humour and craziness, that works as well. It widens the market, because some people tune into Electroboom. Well, most people tune into Electroboom to see him hurt himself, fundamentally. He almost killed himself in one video. Yeah, the microwave oven transformer Jacob's ladder that wasn't faked, unfortunately, when that fell and he grabbed it. That was apparently real. He almost came a cropper. He told us that when that happened, he just felt really cold all of a sudden. He went and lay down the corridor outside the room, then finished the video the next day. Bold. We almost lost Electroboom to a typical Electroboom accident. I thought that was staged. I thought it was faked. No, apparently not. Right, we have to build the power supply now. I should get the soldering iron on. Ow. Ow, I'm saying ow because I think I've sprained a muscle. Oh, I know what I did it. I used my garden shredding machine that I occasionally use. Basically, you stick the garden in one side and it comes out as powder the other side. It's the only way to garden, really. But I was using it today and picking up big chunks of tree and throwing them and not really thinking through the move and so on. So, sprained muscles. Oh, this is huge. This is not going to fit. I was planning on seeing, can I get this into here? No, you're not. You could, but there's no room for circuitry. Actually, there might be room for circuitry. That's going to be tight. We'll give it a go. I shall crop that cable tie down. I might not need that cable tie in there, but I'll crop it down, leave it in place. So now we have our string of lights with a positive connection and a negative connection. And now for the power supply. I shall put these things out the way. I will actually. No, I won't pause. No, you're getting the full thing. This is very inappropriately fake Red Bull, Tesco, aftershocky type, not aftershock, but the caffeinated beverage with vodka in it. One controlled shot of vodka. Right. Now let me grab the notepad here. Actually, no, let me just grab this bit of paper that had questions on it, because that means we can use it more efficiently. For reference, when I show pictures or print-offs of eBay listings like this, on a bit of paper like this, it's cream so it doesn't swamp out the camera. If this was white, it really does, where you can see what happens by bringing in white, it sort of swamps out a bit. When I use these, I fold them, it's only printed one side, I'll fold it up and I'll scribble out the schematics, the first rough of a schematic on this. So it gets well used. So here is the schematic. Here is the incoming supply, AC, and then it's going to go to 2 resistors. And I've chosen 22k resistors, but wherever you are in the world, you can calculate it. You can use different resistors. You might use 10k resistors if you're in America. But it's going to a bridge rectifier, and I'll just draw it as a chunky bridge rectifier like that. And plus, minus, and then there's going to be a resistor on there as well, and then a resistor on there, badly drawn resistor, and then this string of LEDs. That's it. That's the circuitry. It means it's not smooth. There's going to be a little bit of ripple, but by using a small number of LEDs versus the mains voltage, it reduces that. And the reason for putting the resistors where they are is just one on each leg of the bridge rectifier. What could be easier than that? Also, if you touch the output of this, and this is the safety aspect, let's just work that out. Let's bring in the kink calculator. So we've got 88k total, so I'll give you an idea of the power consumption. If you were to use like just a few LEDs here, that would be I equals V over R, so it's 240 volts RMS divided by the 88,000. This is a worst case if it was short-circuited. Gives a current of 2.7 milliamps times the 240 equals dissipation of 0.6 watts divided by the 4 resistors means a dissipation of 0.16 watts per resistor. The resistors are going to stay pretty cool. However, more interestingly, if you were like to faff around with this, this is you faffing around with it, whee! And you're on a grounded surface, which is kind of unlikely. And we'll just go oh no, the sort of exasperated look because electricity is flowing through you. Let's calculate this. The current that would flow through you would be 240 volts RMS divided by I equals V over R divided by, in this case, 2 resistors are going to be in line, whatever route it comes, 44,000 ohms equals a current of 5 milliamps, 5.5 say. That's going to hurt, right? It's going to be really ow, but it's not going to be even remotely fatal. You'd feel that going up the arms, and even if it was a hand-to-hand contact, it poses no risk of, it's going to hurt, but it's not going to kill you. So that's nice and safe. Also, the voltage is divided across this resistor and say one of the other resistors. So you're always going to get 2 resistors in series, and that reduces this electrical strain on those resistors. As it is also, whatever voltage is being dropped across these resistors is divided by the 4, so they're really unstressed. They're going to be super reliable. You can calculate using Ohm's law, what resistors to use for your preferred number of LEDs. Keep in mind, if you're in a 100 volt to 120 volt country, you probably want to use a much smaller number of LEDs, just 20, which makes it much easier to build. Okay, that one's miles bigger than the other, but that's all right, it's fine. They're going to be all splayed out randomly by the time I finish with them. Here is the bridge rectifier. Now, decisions. I want to save space. I may just put the resistors like this and actually wind the leads around the bridge rectifier leads. Let's see how that goes. I can always start from scratch, but it doesn't really work that well. But let's put a little loop and put it down like that. And it means that's not going to take up much space, is it? Two of these can go down to the pins of this bayonet cap holder, or if it was Edison screw, one could go down to the base and the other could have a little loop round to the case. This is looking promising. This is looking promising. Let's solder that one in place and then crop leads. And let's make this as tiny as possible. That's the other advantage. It also means that because I've not got an electrolytic capacitor, it saves a lot of space as well. Having the electrolytic capacitor introduces other complexities, but can make for a flicker-free thing, but it does introduce other complexities. Oh, that is very hot, he said, soldering it with a very high temperature soldering iron. That's the first resistor connected. This rectifier has the AC and the plus and minus printed on it, which is useful. That is going to be super low profile, isn't it? That's going to be a tiny little power supply. Almost so tiny that maybe I should zoom down a little bit and maybe even refocus up to a better height. Let's get the next resistor. In fact, I may actually crop these leads down a bit in advance, just to make things a little tiny bit easier. And for those of you who care, I'll put all the resistors point in the same direction, because some people prefer that. It doesn't really matter, but some people prefer it, so that's what we'll do. I should put this one around here. And solder this one. And once again, it will heat up quite rapidly in my fingers, but that's okay. Sploosh and soldering. Let's keep it away from the other fingers. Oh, that is very hot. Yes, very hot indeed. Yes. Questions. What is the next question? Next question. A prank thing. Vitamins and iron. Have you ever edited Wikipedia? I've not. I do financially support Wikipedia with a regular contribution because I think it's one of the most important sites on the internet, but I've not got involved in actually editing it. I always feel that I'm not good enough to edit it for some reason. I'm not really that sort of person who wants to thrust my opinions on people, even factual stuff. And to be honest, the best people to edit Wikipedia specific pages are super duper technical geeks that are totally into their subject. And there are lots of geeks that edit Wikipedia very, very well. It's a good springboard for research. Wikipedia got a lot of bad press in the early days because you can edit it yourself, and media organizations like newspapers would basically say how rubbish it was because they went on and edited it with misinformation. And they did the equivalent of a small child going into a library, asking for an encyclopedia and then drawing all over the pages with crayon. That is literally what the media industry did, so not really much respect for them. That is a power supply made. That wasn't too hard, was it? Wikipedia and archive.org, two of the most important sites. So two of these connections, the AC ones, are going straight down to the bottom of this cap here. The other connections are going to, and I'll cut them off at the moment, are going to, oh, maybe a bit too much, but not to worry. they're going to connect to these two wires that are coming off this, but I shall crop them down a bit. I do want to try and make this super duper micro-sized. So I shall crop these, noting that the one furthest away is positive. Maybe even a wee bit shorter. And strip that, and I shall actually, before I go any further, I shall remark it as positive. I could have used a red wire for the positive, but I didn't. And now I shall put some solder on these, tin them with lead-based solder so it sticks. Oh, that's hot. That's very hot. Ow, very, very hot indeed. Super miniature. And then I shall tin these leads. Oh, look, I just skidded it right up the plastic there. That's not great, but that's okay. Where it's going, it's well insulated anyway. Botched it. And then I shall angle these. Right, actually, I'll just do it right. So this is a positive. This is the positive, and it's connecting to the positive resistor. And I shall reflow this. I hear a bird call outside. That probably means that dawn is breaking or something like that. That's what happens. I've left this video too late. That's normal for me. And the negative connection shall be soldered on to here. I shall add a bit more solder. Like this. Super miniature power supply. Kind of want to reflow this one with a bit more solder, but you know, as soon as I touch it, it's going to ping off. Yeah, it pinged off. That's predictable. That's fine. That's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad. Now, technically speaking, if I swing that round now, like this, that should be my super miniature. I have broken that wire off. Right, okay. I had a feeling that was going to pop off because it's not optimal. Let me twist this over and then reflow that. There is always that risk when you're resoldering things that as soon as you touch the solder to them, they ping off. That's annoying. I got far too small a resistor bridge on that. Let's try again, but actually get... Hold on, where's my long nose pliers? That's what I should be using here. Footery. That's another slight problem, the fact this is a mains voltage project and it's footery and fumbly. Totally non-compliant with electrical regulations, but that's okay. You can do things like this for yourself. Ew, that's excessive, but that's good. Now, angle these away. I may even put a bit of sleeving over these. I will put a bit of sleeving over these just as a precaution. Just so that when I mush things into the holder, they are protected, and they could also touch the back here. I may sleeve the whole thing, in fact. I shall go and get some sleeves for this. Rightio, one moment. Is this heat shrink sleeving going to fit? It is, if the wire's snugged up against there. Yeah, that should do it. It will do it. And at the other side. The more sleeving the merrier, to be honest. Although having said that, you also have to consider these resistors could get warm in use. Not super warm, but it's going to be some warmth. So I'm going to use the hot air gun to shrink that on. I was tempted to make a 3D printed insert for this lamp holder. But unfortunately, I mean, I have to allow for the fact that not everybody who wants to do this project will have a 3D printer, so let's be fair and not do that. Now, do I want to put a bit of sleeving around that? I think I do. Put a sleeve around the whole thing. Is this too small? It is a bit too small. Is it? Yeah, it's a bit small. Yeah, hold on. I'll get a bigger bit of sleeving. This should go over easier. Yes, I'll put a little sleeve round just to protect it from shorting out in the side of the lamp holder. We don't want to make the side of the lamp holder live. It causes technical problems. Not in America or places using, or Europe, most of Europe using the Edison screw lamp holders, but in the UK it causes problems. So this could also, I could mush these wires together. And I'm going to pot this in resin afterwards, which is probably a terrible idea. Right, that's the sleeving, and then this goes in like this. Try and align it to those two holes. This is where it's odd that I'm even using a bayonet cap lamp holder, which is very kind of, it's only used in a few different countries, but it happens to be used here. The bayonet cap lamp holder, the live and neutral, the two contacts, then the actual housing is not live in any way. Righty-ho. I think I'm going to be able to fill this with resin. I think it's going to work. Righty-ho. So these terminals here, I just fold them over and I'll cut them off afterwards. So I'll fold them over like that. I'll get the little rivets that go in. And I shall mash those rivets in and then crop the leads. Oh, they are not wanted to go in. That's okay. I shall push them against the edge of the bench. I'll take them off shot for this. Yeah, they're kind of going in. I think they're designed for stranded wire, but that's all right. They're in. I've cut myself trying to push against that sharp metal edge. And then we'll crop these flush. Okay, that is the assembly. Now I have to cut all the LEDs. That is going to take some time. This is where I might actually pause, if I'm going to cut all the LEDs, because that's cutting and inserting LEDs, that will take a while. Also, I want to pot this in resin, and that means mixing the resin together and getting it in, which is going to be very time consuming. It's going to take a while to cure, so I will pause for that. So one moment, please. Most remiss of me. This is supposed to be a full build video, so a full build video will be, I've got the LEDs that I want, and I'm going to shorten the leads because the leads are going to plug into these connectors here. So I'm going to shorten them, but I'm going to keep one long and one shorter because the positive one will be the longer one. So I'm just going to crop them like this, and I'm just going to go through all the LEDs like this and then look at the next question that is to be answered, which is from Ian Grams. What's your favourite way to unwind and relax? I'm not sure, actually. I like taking stuff to bits, so I mean that is quite a relaxing thing. Or building stuff like this. This could be a nice way to unwind and relax. Other than that, if I'm in bed and I'm trying to get to sleep and I'm not getting to sleep, because you know what it's like, you go to bed and suddenly just everything is in your head and it's just, there's no rest. Sometimes I'll distract myself with YouTube videos, namely the ones of people having terrible accidents. You know, there's things like super fail and things like that. where it's just silly things happening. That's quite relaxing. But also, the other thing that's quite pleasant to do, just to distract the brain, is play solitaire on the phone at night. And it just basically play it until I start dozing off, and then just turn the phone off and then just go to sleep. That's the point. You know, if I'm watching a video and I doze off, I just briefly, or start drifting, I just take that as the point. Okay, this is the time to jump on the sleep bandwagon while it's there. Cropping these leads down. I've chosen the green LEDs, the green straw hat with a fairly wide dish. Because you get different, you get the tiny chips and you get the bigger ones. And these ones I think have diffusion in them as well, which is quite nice. I don't think it's phosphor, I think it is actually a green chip under a slight diffused gel. Because if they're putting the gel in anyway for the phosphor ones, they can do it over the standard chips as well. You get ordinary straw hat. They call these straw hat LEDs, or 4.8mm LEDs. You get standard ones with just the bare chip, or the phosphor ones. Or in this case, the diffusion gel, which is nice because it gives it a larger spot of light, gives it a different visual effect. You also get different lengths of leads. I keep snagging the leads there. You get different lengths of leads, and the short ones, I can understand it from a manufacturing perspective. It's a lot cheaper because there's less metal ultimately, and the shipping is also easier because there's less weight, because a lot of the weight will be in the metal legs. But it's not so great for when you're wanting to do projects where the LEDs are stood up quite high, or if you're converting the strings of Christmas lights. I think these are magnetic. Maybe I need to demagnetize them, degauss them. I have a degausser. I've featured a degausser in a video before. Very simple. It's just an AC powered coil, very short duty cycle. You power it up, you touch the tool to it, and then take it away slowly. And because it's an alternating magnetic field, it alternatively puts a north and south field in it, but gradually decreasing until ultimately there's no net magnetic field in the tool. That is degaussing in a quick summary. But really, I don't play music much for the relaxing aspect. If I'm doing something like this and without actually recording it as a video, I would maybe put on teletext in the background, which is a musician who does live mixing of layering of tracks. It's quite good. CFAX, should I say, not teletext. CFAX crew. That's better. But he does big, huge, long sessions, does it live, performs at venues, and it's quite good as background music. It's just a continuous transition of music. But other than that, I'll listen to bursts of music, but not an awful lot. Another thing that's quite relaxing, particularly the weekend, is to go in some of the Las Vegas channels, like Walking Vegas, where they basically just walk into all casinos and they carry a camera and just walk. And it's just people watching, basically. And there's The Other Me, who broadcasts from Fremont Street, the original godfather of the Fremont Street live streams, and he catches a lot of the atmosphere. Sometimes he does walking, but these days he often just sits in a corner of a bar and just films what's going on. It's interesting seeing the people. It's very mixed, particularly people who are drunk and doing weird things. That happens a lot in Las Vegas, but you know what happens? What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, except when it's being live streamed. He has problems with music. Some of the tracks will come on, he'll say, uh-oh, that's the video completely blocked now. And some of his videos get taken down immediately with copyright strikes from the older bands. And you hear an old classic coming on, a rock band, and they're the ones that are going to cause the problems. It's not the modern dancey tracks who will just claim a little bit of the monetization, or just basically let it promote the music in the channel. Right, tell you what, let's put these in now. Because people listen to it and then they say, oh, I like that track. And they try and find it. So holding them like this, it's the negative down, positive up. If I get these LEDs in the wrong way around, it will cause them to fail, because they are gallium nitride LEDs. Negative. Next question. I've not glued this yet, which is, hopefully it's not going to short circuit to put it in. That would be very noisy and worrying. The JLL says, where are the snows of yesteryear? I don't know what that means, but I will say that while I've been here, there has been some apocalyptic weather conditions on the Isle of Man. We've had major snow, and people have said, oh, that's the greenhouse effect, you know, it's the global warming, things like that. And then people post up pictures from about 30 years previous when it was worse. And it seems to be cyclic. There was major flooding happened in one small village in the Isle of Man, and they said, yeah, this is new, this has never happened before. And then someone said, well, here it is in the usual 16 or 30 year cycle. It happens like clockwork. And they showed pictures of it and reports. So the snows of yesteryear are still here. I think too much is glamorized with, you know, I'm dreaming of a white Christmas. White Christmases are actually, they've always been fairly rare. It's just not the right time of year for snow in some parts of the world. Other parts of the world, yes. Next question. Which is, Tice Crispies. All right, okay. What do you think of last Thursdayism? Silly, effective, last... Oh, right, the fact that theoretically, it's almost like the replicants, where the Earth may have been created just last Thursday, and our memory is all made up. I think that's the theory behind it. It's possible, because look at the replicants in Blade Runner. They were born with the or they were created with the memories in place to think they'd been alive and they'd had a childhood and so on. I often think that the people, those of us who are born with a specific function like building and maintaining society, sometimes I think we are the replicants. We're a human, Mother Nature is created, and our job is literally to work, and that's where we get our most pleasure from. And it's not a bad thing. I suppose it's like the bees that are out all day collecting the honey, and you think, well, that's just hard work, and there's no great reward for it. But to them, what really matters, what they enjoy, is going and collecting that pollen. They must get some pleasure from it, or they wouldn't do it. They just go and bee strike. But it's programmed into them, and it's programmed into us. Some of us are born as technical people, some of us are born as carers, and some as entertainers, and it's odd. It seems to be what they class as autism, but it's not. It's just a different type of human with a special purpose, not really designed to breed, more just designed to work and maintain society for the rest of the humans. It's just an important part of the human race that Mother Nature has decreed that we shall do. It's fine. I like it. I couldn't really imagine what it's like. Then I don't know what it's like to be a norm. I don't really want to be a norm. It doesn't look as much fun as being technical. Right, we're almost through here, and then I'm going to gingerly stuff this into a live electrical socket and see if it goes bang. It might go bang. There's always that possibility. Or they might just not light up at all. There's always that possibility as well. Oh, that isn't even going in. Oh, that's gone in now. These sockets aren't really designed with stuffing LEDs into them in mind, but it works so high. If you wanted to make a low voltage version of this, you could run it from USB, and you could put a resistor. Oh, that lead is just shot way over the edge there. You could put a resistor in line with each LED socket. That would work. I suppose you could make a supercomputer one as well by just having a big spray of flashing LEDs. That would be safe. But this is just simple. and safe-ish. This also has an advantage that you look at. If this works, then it's this tiny little base. I do have some 2-part resin, but not the Poundland stuff, because the Poundland 2-part resin is supposed to be the 5-minute resin, but it's not. It's taking ages to cure. I don't know if it's just a bad batch they got, or maybe they ordered the long cure time stuff, but it's just annoying that it takes so long to set up. More like hours instead of minutes. Now, if I leave an LED out anywhere in this, they won't light. None of them will light because they're all in series. That's another advantage of the USB powered one with the resistor per LED. You could literally just put one LED in at a time and it would light. With this, you can't do that. They all have to be in. The other issue with adding the capacitor for smoothing is that when you take an LED out, or it's making a bad connection, the voltage from the capacitor just shoots up to full peak mains voltage. And when then you put an LED in, it can cause a sudden current pulse that can nuke an LED. So you have to add extra resistors to limit that current. We're almost there. And then it'll be resin time if this works. I think I've got 2 more LEDs to put in. But I shall double check, just in case I've missed one. Or I'll just plug it in and see if nothing lights. How are we doing? This is looking very promising. Yes, right, I'm going to zoom out now because so you can see the massive bang and the skid mark it leaves across the bench when it all goes horribly wrong. I haven't got through, you know, this video is now approaching, it's well over an hour, and I haven't even got through a fraction of the questions here. I should have been reading more questions, but you know what, you get distracted, don't you? Here is the little Chinese tester. I should put a label on this that says, this is dangerous, do not use it. Because other people probably think it's normal now that you just stuff things in speaker connectors. That's not true. So this is going in here. That's looking pretty good, is it not? They are lit. So now, 0.9 watts. Okay. More than I expected. But that's okay. That is like a lot of it's being dropped across the LEDs, but some will be dissipated across the resistors. But I shall have to check that and see what current it actually is. Right, now I'm going to get the resin stuff set up. No, I'll just do it right now. Let's stick a little mat down like this just so I don't pour resin everywhere. And then we'll bring in the helping hands and we'll try and grip some of these to hold this thing upright while I fill it with resin. Is this going to work? No. Yes. No. Okay. This is going to be very precarious. I don't really want it moving while the resin's curing. I want it to find a nice, comfortable position. I'm also going to have to well it up quite a bit in here. This isn't great. This is going all over the place. It's trying to just wobble like that. I need to put it in something more decisive. This is where I get resin all over my little vise. So I could put this in here. Resin is so messy to work with. I'm moving this in here. I'll probably end up shorting it out. Deep down, you guys want me to short it out for more fun. For the tragedy of it not working when I've finished, or just going bang and all my work being undone in a flash. That's one of the perils of mains, working with mains. It has happened in the past. Now, you're not really going to see this, are you? I could try bunching these up to the top. You're going to see that? Not really. Anyway, I shall mix the resin and pour it in and answer questions while I'm trying to pour it in there and get it into everywhere it needs to go. Hopefully the resin will, because it's very liquid, it will go up the inside and smoosh into all the bits, if you know what I mean. No, you don't. That's fine. Here's a little plastic cup. Here's a stirrer. Here are 2 tubes of resin bought locally from Jack Stores. So let's put equal quantities of the resin in. We'll break the little seals here. It's not really fitting for breaking the seal. Has that even gone over? That's not a very good fit. Okay, well that's off to a great start. So that's one of the seals broken-ish. This is where I should be weighing the resin out. I should be doing it professionally, shouldn't I? I'll go and get my drug scales. Drug scales, designed for precise weighing of chemicals like drugs, but really handy for weighing lots of stuff, really. So let's get that on, and let's put in approximately, well, let's put in a good chunk. We'll put in a good chunk and we'll see what it weighs. We'll put in 4 grams, I think. That'll do. A good, if you're into the resin moulding and stuff like that, a channel I recommend is Brick in the Yard Mould Supply. It's got an amazing story behind the name. The guy had a little explosives incident when he was young, which basically, I think he was using a fire extinguisher to hold explosives, and it went off, unfortunately, and blew all the windows out of his. He was living in a camper van at the time, and it was all over the media because they thought he was a terrorist. It's such an unexpected story behind that channel. And one of the things they said, because they found a brick in the yard, which he'd been, you know how when you're blowing stuff up, you put it on a brick. That's what he was doing. And they said, and because the police mentioned it, that they'd found a brick in the yard, all the media channels said, and a brick in the yard. And he was like, oh, for God's sake. And that's, he said, in the future, it's so funny seeing that, all these news articles about me blowing myself up. Because he did suffer quite significant injuries, including pierced eardrums and stuff like that. He decided to use the Brick in the Yard name in the future. Whatever eventually went on, he wanted to use Brick in the Yard. And well, it turned out that he sold moulding materials for special effects and prosthetics online. And well, that's his YouTube channel, is a very good educational channel on those prosthetic things. So I'm mixing this 2-part resin together. Give it a good thorough mix. This is the 5-minute stuff. It feels a bit thick and sticky, actually, even though it's not particularly low temperature at the moment. Hopefully it's going to flow better. And this is when I have to try and scoop it into this thing, and you're not really going to see it too well because it is just the wrong angle, but I'm going to have to put it in bit by bit. So I shall answer more questions while I'm just scooping dollops of this in. And that's really all I'm doing here. I'm scooping dollops of it in off one side. Skipikai asks, were the original inventor of the Gabriel electrode? I remember reading about it decades ago on a website, but don't remember which one. I heard you mention it a while ago when mentioned Jacob's ladders. Yes. I came up with the idea of the Gabriel electrode. The Jacob's ladder is a high voltage effect where the electricity zips up the wires, making that classic type noise. And in the UK, because of regulations regarding the maximum voltage to ground being 5 kV, for neon sign transformers, the maximum transformer we can have is 10 kV because it's center tapped to ground. And because of that, it just makes it harder to get a consistent strike at the base. So I put in a third electrode at the base with a resistor leading to it. This resin is going in the wrong place. Oh no, it's going over the edge. Let's try and scoop that up. This is where it gets all very messy. I'm trying to put this in at one side so it flows down and around itself, but I may have to, if it's not going to flow too well, because more liquider is better. But I developed just for my own use, really. But I thought, hey, that works pretty well. The only problem is you have to use very high voltage resistors, and very high value resistors, because if it arcs across onto that electrode continually, it burns the resistors up quite easily. I did consider using a capacitor, but high voltage capacitors charged up to high voltage they also kind of need a discharge resistor anyway, so hopefully this is not going off already. I don't think it is. It's quite a fumblesome thing, really. I'm just going to put it on, paint it onto the wires and let it flow down. Hopefully the weight just pushes it down round. I was hoping it was going to be flowing in better, but you know what resin's like. It's very finicky. If you've worked with resin, you know just how much trouble it is, and usually when you try fixing things, it makes things worse with resin. So I'll just keep painting it on. But the Jacob's ladder, the Gabriel electrode, is just that third electrode that assists with the ionization of the air between the two base electrodes. It's just that third electrode with a high value resistance to just allow it to ionize the air but not really interfere with the actual spark jumping across. You either read it on my website, or it may have been Samuel Goldwasser's site, or was it Don Klipstein's site? Those were sites of the past. They're probably still about. I think they're both still about as people as well, thankfully. Don't know. Oh, I've just spilt resin and it's gone right down. That is so annoying. Oh, that's on my vise. It's going to have to cut off. Lovely. Resin. It's a thing. I may actually need more resin, but that's not a bad thing. Of course, it would help if I wasn't just dribbling it everywhere it wasn't supposed to go. I can always let this cure and then top it up, but right at the moment I want it to actually flow down as much as possible. This is where actually heating it with a hot air gun would actually make it flow better, but I don't want to trap air underneath. Although having said that, it doesn't matter too much as long as there's something holding it rock solid in this housing. Yeah, I may have to add a bit more resin. That's okay, I can do that afterwards at my leisure. I shall just use whatever is left here, just basically scrape it on. But leave a little bit in this container because it's useful to know how when it sets up. Two-part resin is very handy. The ultraviolet curing resin is also very handy. Each has its own merits. Right, tell you what, I shall leave it like that and answer another question while hopefully it cures. Oh, that resin droplet has gone down. Has it dripped to my bench? Probably. Have I glued my vise to the bench? Most likely. I don't want to touch anything now. This is the other thing about resin. Once you've started putting it in, you can't faff around with it. As soon as you touch it, it's a disaster. Skyme5250 says, I don't really have any big questions. I just want to say that your channel has given me an incredible amount of joy and relaxation over the last few years. The world is a shitstorm, but I can watch Big Clive do some electronics, and that's always calming, entertaining, and educational. Much love from New York. I'd love to send electronic equipment from America. If interest, I'll throw in some American snacks too. I don't recommend posting stuff from America at the moment. Since stuff was done politically, it's just made shipping stuff between America and the UK very troublesome. It's been tricky. But this is what happens. That resin is sinking in well and truly. It's still staying, it's not started curing yet. I wonder how long that'll take. This is literally watching resin dry at this point in time. And how much has gone down, skidded down the side of the lamp cap, hopefully not on the contacts. Oh. Sig at blue, boxers or panties? Boxer shorts, because boxer shorts are loose and cotton boxers is what I prefer to wear. Just let the the dangleberries dangle. Well, not the dangleberries, not piles, but the testicular pendulations. Talking about the watching technical channels, I find that I don't watch electrical and electronic channels much because that's my thing. For me, the recreation is actually watching mechanical and engineering channels. Just that variation, it's something, you're learning something new. Erico at South Main Auto and the other technical channels and Rain Man Ray and stuff like that, they're all very relaxing because it's nice to learn, really, is fundamentally what it is. Are left-handed people smarter just same as right, says Pulsar. I don't know if there's anything for that. I do have that theory about eyes. The people with grey eyes versus the brown eyes are just suited to different styles of type of work. The grey eyes are more abstract, then brown eyes are more decisive. But that's just a theory. El Toro, please can you explain to us how a microchip works and who invented them, Clive? It's just transistors. A huge quantity of transistors all in the one piece of silicon, fundamentally. Since I was given a microchip at the Science Museum London as a child in the early 1980s, I have been fascinated by them. Were they discovered in a crash UFO and alien spacecraft and reverse engineered, I wonder? No, they weren't. They were invented right here on Earth. By Scotty Pippin says, thoughts on test lights versus multimeters when troubleshooting and computer-safe testers, please. If you're probing about in electrical distribution equipment, I recommend a set of test lamps because they're just a simple and you're looking just for a go, no-go indication. For the electrical testing of computers, I'm guessing that's to do with insulation testing. You get most insulation testers have a low voltage setting, 250 volt. The main thing that you're not going to blow up the computer as such. If you stick a 500 volt mega on it, it will potentially charge the 400 volt capacitors up to 500, so it does put them under stress. But more importantly, they're probably not going to get there because it's going to cause the metal oxide varistors, the little things that look a bit like that but aren't, this particular one. It's going to cause them to shunt, give a wrong reading, and it's also going to potentially impact the lifespan of that device. That's why you test them at low voltage. Is this curing yet? It's gelling. It's at the gelling stage, but it's not curing. Right, that's going to take a while. More questions. It gives me loads of information. Public subscribed to you for 8 years. And things that's odd. If you want to send your interest items to Take to Bits, how would you do that? You can get in touch with me to a degree, but keep in mind I've got lots of stuff here, and it's difficult shipping stuff internationally at the moment, particularly between America and Britain because of something a politician in America did and then how the Royal Mail reacted to it. Fragrantly odious, did you give the orange juice a twirl? If so, what's your rating? 1 out of 5, asking for a friend. No. Ron D. Light says, as an LD, I've always wondered what your stage experience is since you must have some as a tech at least. I only do the technical stuff. I do not do lighting design or stuff like that. There are so many different desks. If we've got a test desk, well, we just tend to use our standalone testers these days. But I'll only know the basic features. I've never really programmed a lighting, designed a lighting show in any way for a theatrical presentation, because to me that's kind of something that's best left to the lighting designers. Some of my co-workers do that as well as a technical side, but I'm mostly technical. Helena of Detroit, can you tell us about an interest story when you were working at a live event, something that went wrong, broke, but then was fixed at the last moment through some clever trick? Do you know, the things that have most beset events have been the programmable circuit breakers that have been misadjusted. They've been set up for half neutral current. What that means is if you set the phase current to, if you say 100 amps in a circuit breaker, it automatically sets the neutral current at 50 amps, and you think that's okay, that's fine. But when you've got weird electronic loads and a lighting rig that is not a balanced load at all because it's all over the place. You can't balance a lighting rig reliably across 3 phases because the lighting scene will change that. We've had them trip out on that. We've also had weird issues with circuit breakers, intelligent circuit breakers, intelligent. Oh, it's started a new video, so it is around about 30-minute. We've had intelligent circuit breakers, just not like some of the older, really odd lights that had very high frequency supplies running over long cables. It just caused weird problems. How's this doing? Is it cured? No, I tell you what, I'm going to pause while this cures. We'll do another question, but really nothing's happened at the moment because we're waiting for resin to cure. I may pause, I may actually add a bit more resin on that, but I kind of want to let it cure first. I'll try another question. Let's start the simple questions. Is there a God and how can we know? Yes, there is. It's Mother Nature. If yes, is it the God of the Hebrew Bible? Nope. If yes, when he's come back, he's not. She never left. It's Mother Nature. Mother Nature is the only God. That's my answer there. It's the one that's provable that does real stuff. Julian DeWise asks, oh no, that's jumped to the next question. So, okay. Favourite type of screw head? Oh, that's a tricky one. Posi drive, typically in the UK. I do like the Robertson's head, the square head. But typically Posi drive, which is like Phillips but a different camber. But I used the Robertson's while I was working in Ireland and I thought it was very good because they seem to use it there. Please talk about what you use to test capacity of street salvage lithium cells. Benjamin Hank. I'll discharge them and then I will recharge them and measure the amount of energy that goes into them because it's fairly close to the energy you get back out. The king of failure, it's another vibro question. You must have an impressive collection of anti-hysteria devices now. Exactly how many do you have? Do you store them in a special display cabinet in the same drawer as a bunch of drivers and spanners? They are sitting loose around the house, along with vintage medical quack equipment like violet rays. Kevin Def K, how do they get the figs in the fig rolls? They extrude them in. It's like a big factory extrusion. It's like plastic extrusions. Why do you live where you do? Bizudgist, I live here at the moment because I had to move over to look after my mum and nurse her through Alzheimer's with my brother helping. Together we looked after her and we've just ended up staying here for a while. I don't know what the future holds though. This is just, at least it's had time to flow, but it is not curing quickly. I think there's an issue with resins at the moment not. Maybe I've kicked back to the pandemic time. Right, tell you what, I'm going to pause because this is going to end up way too long. I'll come back and do the finale and show you this once it's all cured. One moment, please. One sleep later to let the resin cure. And I noticed last night that the 151 5-minute epoxy glue, quick drying, then you turn it over and it says it's 30-minute epoxy with 24-hour final curing time. That's not fast curing epoxy, but nonetheless, it is now fully cured. I put well, it's more or less fully cured. I put another bit on top just to top it up and then cleaned off the metalwork. So let's look at the results of this. Well, would you like to see it lit first? That's a good idea. So I'll take the exposure off and turn the light off. And there we have it. It's very nice, I have to say. Very bright, good colour and good nice green. And ultra low power. Let's look at the power readings. 1 milliamp, if that. I'm not really sure. It probably is around about 1 milliamp. We can calculate that. Power factor is 0.9. It's U-ing up and down. 0.94, say. And the power consumption is 0.4 watts, which is nothing. The base of it stays absolutely stone cold. Right, let's do some computations. Watch your eyes, the light is coming back. So keep in mind that this is purely a decorative light. It's got 42 LEDs. I was aiming for 40, but ended up sticking a couple more in. And if we do the calculations in this, I measured the forward voltage at round about, say, 1 or 2 milliamps. I measured the forward voltage of the LEDs at 2.3 volts. So the LED voltage is 2.3 volts times, let's focus down onto that level, times 42 equals, let's bring in the kink calculator. The kink calculator is here. I like the result here. It's very good. 2.3 volts times 42 equals, the combined LED voltage is 96.6 volts. Okay, this is also why, because there's no smoothing, if you do this in a 100 to 120 volt country, you have to use a small number of LEDs. You'll end up with a clump more or less of this size, but that's fine. It's all good. You can theoretically run them a bit brighter without increasing the dissipation of the resistors too much. So based on this, the current supply voltage is, say, 246 volts, minus the calculated 96.6 volts equals, let's grab the kink calculator again, 246 volts minus the 96.6 equals 149.4 volts being dropped across the resistors. So that's that divided by, and there's 422k resistors, so that's 88k, equals a current of 1.7 milliamps times the 246 volts of the supply voltage at the moment equals 0.4 watts. So there is our 0.4 watts. It's very close. It's within 1/100th of a watt. That's very good. Keep in mind that a good chunk of that will be just dissipated across the resistors. We can calculate what's dissipated across the resistors. So to calculate what's dissipated across the resistors, that's the 149 volts, 149.4 volts times the current, which is 0.0017, equals a quarter of a watt between them all, divided by the 4 resistors. Each resistor is dissipating 63 milliwatts, which is not even, like, it's so negligible, it's like nothing. That's great. I could have gone further. I could have seen what voltage is being dropped across each resistor. Let's just say it's round about, say, 40 volts being dropped across each resistor, so they're not being stressed at all. So that's it. It's very nice. As if always with this type of project, if you do make one yourself, do keep in mind that it's not compliant with electrical standards, because if you make any mistakes in the base, you can, like, have little short circuits and things like that can go wrong, but it'd probably just pop a fuse. In the UK, with this base, it has to be isolated from any electrical connections, so that's what the sleeving was for. If you put it into a plastic holder, it'll be fine. Like this, it'll be fine. But if you put it into a grounded or earthed enclosure, like, say, a metal ceiling fixture, it'll potentially trip the RCD. But then again, for all saying that it's non-compliant, the other thing is you can't buy something like this. You can't buy this tiny little base with 42 bright-ish LEDs spread out. And I can shape these now. I can just fan them out into a big sort of fan, or even twist it into the shape of a little tree. So that's nice. The other thing I could do, I could potentially part this in the middle, and I could stick, with a bit more resin, I could stick some foliage down into that, the plastic foliage with the LEDs around it. That would also be nice. But there we have it. Good project. Very fun to make. Keep in mind that it isn't compliant. You could theoretically, if you pushed hard enough there, you could make contact with live electrical connections in here. Or if the LEDs were part way out, you could touch them. And if you're swapping the power on, that does pose a slight risk of a shock. But again, it will be very, very current limited to the point of being safe. But that's it. That was fun. I really enjoyed that. It was very relaxing. And that concludes this project. It took a decent length of time, but these projects always do. You just tinker away until it's done. But very attractive. Nice result. I'm very pleased with the way that turned out.